Chronic disease is coming from chronic toxicity. Toxic could be environment, yes. All these chemicals, yes. But it also could be your thoughts. Could be your own toxicity generator, which is also important. And every time when you think something negative or feel, especially feel something negative, you produce cortisol, which is a main stress hormone that creates inflammation. And in this chronic inflammation is part of chronic disease.
There's a
Uh,
lot we could talk about right now, isn't there? As a kid growing up in Georgia, and I never even had these thoughts. We were like fishing in the back pond. We were wading through the streams, gardening in the back. Didn't even know what glyphosate was, which is one of the most harmful chemicals you can put on foods and vegetables that kills weeds. And we didn't even think twice about our environment. And now, as time has gone on, we've seen the chronic disease pick up to a level which is really out of control. Not one person is really unaffected by it. So we are constantly working at Global Wellness Forum and the Maha movement and all the work that so many of us are doing who care about humanity to discover how we can help remove these toxins from our environment and also how we can eradicate them from our bodies
yeah.
because it's twofold, right? And I come to you because you've got some tools, and those tools are very important. And what I'm doing is, helping with legislation and helping with awareness. And, that's why it takes all of us coming together at this time to really, impact our environment and our own personal sovereign bodies.
Yes, exactly. So while you're working on legislations, my job is to develop all these tools and protocols and remove these um, chemicals, all
Yes.
these toxins out of our body, and improve these tools and our faculties, our own faculties, activate those pathways in our body, so we would be virtually invincible to it. So it's amazing, and yeah, you're right. Chronic disease is coming from chronic toxicity, and it's coming. We were just talking about before we started that toxic could be environment, yes, all these chemicals, yes, but it also could be your thoughts. Your own could be your own toxicity generator, which is also important. And every time when you think something negative or feel, especially feel something negative, you produce cortisol, which is a main stress hormone that creates inflammation. And inflammation is the part of this chronic inflammation is part of chronic disease. Uh,
Right.
I was surprised that some people don't even know that cancer is the ultimate chronic inflammatory process that at the end the body gives up and just turn into cancer. Cancer is inflammation.
Right. And
Yes.
and parasitical too, and oftentimes, right?
Parasites, viruses, and toxins, they all work at the level of DNA and the
Right.
cellular level. So it's important to look into the cell. Like my protocol, at least that's what I do. Look in the cell and again, activate faculties. Don't bring anything new to your body. Body knows how to fix itself. All you have to do is just activate those pathways that we already have inside of us.
Yeah. How do we do that? How we activate the DNA strands that are dormant, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And before you do that, it's also good to know what is your DNA consist of, what is your genetic makeup consist of. So that's why this nutrigenomics and pharmacogenomics, all this DNA testing is, to me, it's crucial. I know that you have some hesitance, and we spoke about that. Let's
Yes.
let's
But you
just
can talk me into it. You tell me why I
tell me,
should.
tell me what is holding, let's say, you back, or what's holding you
I
back? Tell
think
me.
it's the power of the mind and the higher consciousness. Like I want to manifest in the greatest and highest way. So I suppose for many years I've been hearing about this, and I think I would rather not know because I want to live my life in the healthiest form that I can, and as if I'm always healing my body, right? So my consciousness is that I'm always in a process of healing, but I don't want my mind to start thinking, oh my gosh, I've got this situation. And then it triggers a downward spiral.
Well, that I think that is a little false premise, because the way we look at this is the way you saying it is looking at the genetics from typical Western medicine point.
Right.
You could actually take that information and use it for your not only your physical health, but for your growth, your spiritual growth, your emotional, you know, resilience. So, for example, when we talk about genetics, we're not talking about diseases, although we kind of say we talk about diseases, but we talk about predispositions,
Right.
tendencies of the body. Okay, so isn't it great to know that we do have, for example, in a psychology, there's a emotional section for genetic testing, that someone is more predisposed to, let's say, certain habits that make them more compulsive. Doesn't mean that the person will become obsessive compulsive, but if you have these tendencies, there's also suggestions. Okay, instead of taking magnesium oxalate, magnesium biglycinate would be probably better for you.
Okay.
Or, for example, you're someone who is taking NAD and taking glutathione. Great. But what if you carry that gene that you need to be on extra glutathione? You need to be more mindful about glutathione compared to someone who doesn't have that gene mutation. Okay.
Yeah.
Or another information, for example, if you're buying vitamins, there's so many good vitamins. We have abundance of products today on the market.
Supplement ourselves forever and back again.
Exactly. How to pick which one is the best? Well, isn't it good to know that you have that gene mutation, for example, some sort of gene mutation that will not utilize specific vitamins in your body. So you
Like a
need
lot of people have that with vitamin B, right?
exactly. We
Mm.
talk about methylation, like
Right.
MTHFR, MTH, and all these mutations, which is not a disease, it's a variant. But isn't it great to know for me that I would be rather buying that type of vitamin. And by the way, if you don't have that mutation and you're doing it, you're over methylating yourself. So if you're buying, let's say, methylated forms of vitamins, but you don't need, you can overdo it, and overdoing is not good either. And
Right.
we spoke about this. Taking too much of a good stuff is not
Exactly.
always a good idea.
I know. I believe you need to fast a day from it every now and then too, right?
Right.
Fasting from your supplementation.
Yeah, so there's a different types of genetics. There's genetics to see what is your predisposition to specific diseases. Okay, some people want to know, some people don't want to know. That's fine. But there's a nutrigenomics. There are pharmaceutical genomics. I think this is what we actually need to know. I know that some people hesitant to go through genetic testing for other reasons, meaning that they don't want to expose their DNA on the public, and just in case if something happens that could happen in the past, that data get hijacked and their information is somewhere, and someone possessing the information, which is not a great thing. Yes, I understand that, but again, you create your own reality, right? Create a
Yeah.
reality that your data is safe and you're a free being.
You have to remember for me, I watched my mother suffer through a very, very difficult cancer. So
Mhm.
what is the testing that was specific for that? What's the name of it?
One BRCA2 testing. Yes.
So because it was in my my life patterning from my mother, I was like, I don't want to know. I'm going to live like I'm healing cancer every day because I didn't want that to interpret. What you're talking about, I think, is a whole nother level that I can really get on board with, and I do think it's important. And some people, do like to understand if they have that gene or not, right?
Well, the thing is, like, even if you have that gene, and I spoke about this numerous times, BRCA1, for example, it puts you to risk to have certain cancers, 40%, 80%, let's say 80% of cancer. And but there's a 20% of people do not get cancer.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah,
happens in that 20%?
what
There
does?
must be something that doesn't turn on that gene. And that's what I'm talking about. Nutrigenomics is to see what is it that you have to keep silent or activate in order for you to not to turn on these bad genes.
That's great. That's super important. I can completely, be inspired to want to know more about that.
Right, right. And it's done just by activities, changing your lifestyle, taking specific activities. For example, for me, there's a hormone called BDNF that we produce in our brain, and it's usually produced by sweating.
Mhm.
So I have this mutation that I do not produce that much of that BDNF hormone.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that makes you motivated, makes you energized, and so forth. So I'm someone who must sweat. Okay.
Mhm.
My exercise, it has to include sweating.
Do you
I
sweat easily or is it challenging for you?
It depends. It depends on the temperature. It depends what I do. But
Right.
my goal is to sweat. I need to drink
Yeah.
lots of water. My goal is to go in the sauna and sweat in order for me to maintain that BDNF hormone. You see?
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. And how would any of us really know that unless we're speaking to you or doing this type testing?
Exactly. Exactly. Another example, I'm just going to give you this example and we're going to move on with something else. But example of cardiovascular risk. People say my father died from heart attack, my grandfather died from heart attack, my
Mhm.
brother died from heart attack. I am high risk of heart attack, and that's why my doctor put me on medication to keep my cholesterol down. Okay. So now, if you really look at the reasons, specific reasons for heart attacks, which is uh, blocking of the vessel, coronary vessel, the heart, right? That's what it is. There are three main reasons. The first reason could be clotting. Someone who is just producing that blood clotting abilities much higher than compared to some other general population.
Right.
One reason, clotting. The second reason is cholesterol, creating a cholesterol plaque. And the third reason is increasing in inflammation in the vessel of that coronary artery,
Mm,
in the vessels, the
right.
inflammation of endothelium. Okay, three different reasons, three different genes responsible for that.
Right.
You see? So that means if I have my apogene, which is responsible for cholesterol, is not mutated and it's normal, but
Right.
I have my inflammatory gene is activated,
Mhm.
cholesterol is not a problem for me.
Right.
You
It
see,
balances out.
my focus should be inflammation.
Right. And that is so much to do, with our diet, of course. What are the other issues that you would throw into there that's causing all this inflammation?
Absolutely. Diet, breath work,
Yeah.
mitochondria. It's all about mitochondria, which is a very interesting subject. And today, everybody's talking about mitochondria because
Yeah, all about the gut health and the brain health and that correlation between the two of them, right?
yes, yes. Well,
What?
it's interesting and it's funny sometimes to watch because the material that is expanding now and becoming almost like a norm for any person, but mitochondria and NAD and glutathione. This is something that we studied in medical school, second year medical school, in the biochemistry, and now it's becoming household names and people are talking about this freely. That's how collectively humanity is growing and being aware, which is a beautiful thing. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, we're expanding so quickly, I mean, everything that we've learned, it's multiplying to such a nanotechnology really, and how our world and our environment is expanding. So it's up to us to keep expanding our own thought consciousness and our own spiritual consciousness. And we do that through our relationships and also like you do with the breath work. I mean, the breath work really ignites so much of that. And how do we stay connected to the divine and channel that through our being? So we are moving with the frequencies that the earth is shifting to.
Correct, absolutely. So in all the frequencies depends on your emotions. Your emotions are energy in motion. Your
Right.
emotions connected to your hormones. So every time you have any kind of thought, you're producing emotion. That emotion triggers hormonal response. Hormonal
Mm,
response goes and affects your physical body. That's how mind and body connection happens through
right.
messaging system. Your hormones as messenger systems, your mitochondria again, your messenger system, the energy production. So it's just impossible to separate mind, body, and spirit. It's just impossible, and we coming to this conclusion more and more now.
Right. That's why I love the work you're doing. You have the education as a doctor, and now but you have the soul of a child of God, right? That's you've ignited that light force in yourself with what you've learned, and now it's the next level, which we are all thriving to be a deeper part of.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to achieve with our events, to educate, to bring as much awareness as possible about your own your own body and especially your own cells. Everything happens on the cellular level. And as soon as you understand how it works, everything will become easy. Because like I
Mm,
said, there's so much information we're being bombarded with so much of that
right.
information. But how do you filter that? How do you pick which one is for you? So in that case, the understanding your anatomy, physiology, and especially your cellular physiology, and then understanding also that other tools that exist that you could use them and utilize them and use them as a roadmap for life. I think that is the most important. That's what we're trying to do. We have
And that's what we want to do. We want to be able to, as mothers, and we would just want to expand our health into our child's health, and then teach them how to do the same thing and create generations of healthy souls walking this earth. Because I do believe that we can bring heaven to earth, and that's what we're
well,
called.
you're doing it, and I really applaud you. I commend you for that. A lot of things, yeah, you're very active, and a lot of changes already happening, and especially in Florida, you guys are pushing really hard.
Yes, we've got some good legislation that's been passed.
Good
Yeah.
job, good job. The team, your team, and Maha team. I can see the results, especially in Florida. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, we're working hard. With God bless New York. We want to get it done in New York, and it's one of the toughest places. So we keep our consciousness high enough. We'll find the right people to help push us over the goal line in New York City, because I have friends all around the world that we share what's going on in the skies, what's going on with the physicalities of people, so we can stay on top of it. And then we get the communities activated. So it's really about activating the communities and get our voices out there. And then as the numbers grow, we can expand and have a bigger effect with what can be shifted in our governments and in our
yeah,
world.
yes, the chemtrails. Good job on the chemtrail thing.
Uh,
All these legislations are being signed for stem cells as of July
yeah.
1st. It's amazing. There's so many things, so many promising things are happening. So
Yes. Yeah. It's a very great time to be alive. I mean, people say, "Oh my God, it's such a tough." It's a great time to be alive. We're challenging ourselves like never before. And I was sharing with a friend today about, even through the challenges of COVID, how many more people dug deep within themselves to find what was important and to activate that spiritual light inside when everything else seemed to be out of control, and the unknowns. And because the unknowns were so great, and then what do? We seek something much higher than ourselves. So it's a great time for so many that are experiencing what, I kind of feel like I was born with. Like I've always had this love of God. I've always had this love of nature and earth. And so my mind has always been expanding to how I can channel this higher light into this physical realm. But now watching how many more people are excited by it. And so this is really our time to gather together as communities and support each other and lift each other and ask the questions. Don't think we know it all, because we're all here to learn. We're all here to expand the way we see things. And sometimes in just the listening to a different opinion, is causes a shift inside, right? And so then we can take our wisdom to the next level and create a better world.
true,
Yeah.
very true.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
So happy, so happy. You're kidding me? That's what we do. It's what we ignite in each other. It's
Everything.
beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So happy to be with you today. And I'm looking forward to really how you're taking all the wisdom and knowledge and sharing it with people. And I want to learn more. And you're probably going to talk me into doing this testing. You'll tell me how we can go about that. Um,
Well, it's very easy. We're going to put some links and you could just register with us and you're going to talk to our team. We have
right?
coaches and we have specialists. It's very easy, very easy. Just
Perfect, perfect, perfect. That's it. That's it. We're going to do it. We're going to make it
events
simple.
is important. If you come to event, you're going to get more information. You're going to get so much knowledge, and then you will decide whether you need it or not.
Right.
You see,
It's your choice. You get your choices.
only DNA tests. There are so many other modalities, tests,
Mhm.
protocols that you could explore and try.
Right. And so many women in our age range are, trying to figure out what to do with their hormone balances, and the world is talking about, of course, mitochondria. But I think it's good to just, be able to be women that share with women, that we want to see other people thrive and see each other thrive.
True.
And so thank you, because I've been doing some testing now and seeing where things stand and just experimenting a little bit and feeling really good.
Yes. All right. Thank you for the work you do, and I'll see you soon.
I can't wait. Love you.
Bye. Love you too.
Bye.